Fine. So, uh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So today what we are going to discuss, it's just a beginning of a C++ programming or object-oriented programming. We start with an example program here. So let's take a look at a basic C++ program. You may find it quite similar to C, but there is a remarkable difference between these two. Now, first statement, hash include IO stream. Now, but try to see what I'm writing in front of you. Second statement, using namespace std. Third statement, int main, integer main. Then you have a curly braces. Then you have a cout, and within quotes you have a left shift operator. Within quotes you have average age has a language of its own /n, and you have a return 0, and you have a ending curly braces. So just take few seconds to go through each and every line of the program. Go through each and every line of the program, and we are going to discuss about this simple program today and try to find out difference between C++ and C programming language. Now, must have this slide with you. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So despite its small size, the program is of a small size. This program demonstrates a great deal about the construction of C++ program. It only talk about the construction of C++ program, but not the object-oriented concept. So we are going to discuss object-oriented concept later in the course. But right now, few things that are similar to C programming we are going to discuss here. Now, the first thing, if you see the line number 3 to 7, you find this is a function. So functions are the fundamental building blocks of C++. This may be the part of class or it may be standalone. So here you have a one function. Can you name this function? And how you find it out? A particular identifier is the name of a function or a name of a variable. So keep in a mind.
Function.
Is a main function here. But if we go through any function, how will make it out? This is a name of a function or this is a name of a variable. So if
It is followed by curly braces. It is followed by curly braces.
it's not followed by curly braces,
So
it's
the name
followed
of the
by
name of the variable, the name of the variable is having a data type.
it's integer, a main. So you have a data type and a main is after there. But the only difference is that after main, please somebody switch off your microphone. It's causing some disturbance. Thank you very much. Int main. So main may appear as a name of a variable, but main is followed by parenthesis. So that is why it's differentiating. This is not a name of a variable, but it's a name of a function. So distinguishing feature of a function is basically a parenthesis, and curly braces is used for a body of a function. So we call it two different types of brackets. The first one is a parenthesis, that is distinguishing feature of a function. It may be empty or it may contain arguments. We will discuss later. Here main is empty. Main, that's a parenthesis. Within this you won't find any argument, so it's empty. And after this it follow a curly braces following a body of a function. So here, but in preceding the function name. So you must have written certain C programs in the last year. Have you used int main?
Yes, sir.
Fine. But most of the student basically use void. So void is not a correct syntax. It's not incorrect, but it is not syntactically correct, because if we write a function in C++ or C, it should have a return type main. The return type of main must be an integer type. The purpose is that it should send back something to the calling program. Here the calling program is mostly operating system.
Or this function is not returning something, they're just printing output, then
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
need to.
you do it void, but it's but that is true with or correct with Java. But in case of a C++ and C, we should try to make it integer and try to return zero, because it's that's a value returned to the operating system. So standard C++ and Java and standard C++ and C basically use int. If you use void, it's correct, no problem with it, but better to use int.
So, for example, if you are declaring a variable, a memory is allocated. It's the same with the function also, or is it different?
Yes, we are going to discuss this in detail. We are going to discuss this here because everything is in a memory. The function body is in a part of a program, but within the body, if you write integer x, so x will be allocated memory for a function in a separate location. We will
Okay.
talk about this later. It will always be allocated in a memory, and how it is allocated we will also discuss. So braces and the function body. The body of a function is surrounded by braces. You are aware of it. They surround to delimit a block of statement. The purpose is to say this is a body of a function. All the statement written within these braces will be part of a function. If you define an integer variable temp, so temp will be having a scope from the starting of a curly braces to the ending of a curly braces, because it will be treated as a local variable within a function. So as soon as you call a function, it will be allocated in a memory. As soon as you terminate, moving to the last point, curly braces of a function, it will be deallocated from a memory. Fine. So that is the purpose of a braces and a function body. Every function must use this pair of braces around the function body, so it can delimit certain statements in a function. In this example, there are only two statements in the function body. What are they? The line is starting with a cout. Every language has every age has a language of its own, and it has a written statement that is returning a value there to a operating system. So two statements are defined in main. However, function body can consist of many statements. It's your choice. You can write any number of statements that you may want. Now, program statements. So now, next statement is what is a program statement expression. We are going to discuss in today or in a next class. So program statement is a fundamental unit of a C++ programming. So if you say in this program you have a 7 line of code, but within from 7 line of code you are having only two program statements. So there are two statements. The first is in the program. In the first program that we are going to discuss today is a cout. Every age has a language of its own followed by /n and the return statement. And remaining are not a program statement as such. So now question is that what is a program statement? Program statement is basically telling a computer to do something. So how we say, let's take hash include IO string. I call this is not a program statement, but I say return 0. This is a program statement because the first one is not telling a computer to do something. The first one is telling somebody else to do something, but the return 0 is telling a computer to go back to a operating system. So a program statement simply means it is a command to a computer. First statement tells the computer to display quoted phrase. So here every age has a language of its own. It's a phrase, string constant that is written in a code and it will be displayed to you. The most statement tells the computer to do something. When we say statement, statement means do something. The computer or processor will be doing something on your behalf. In this respect, statement in C++ are similar to statement in other language. In other language also, the purpose of programming is to tell computer to do something. So what next? Computer is always asking what next. And a statement is always telling do this. In fact, as you have noted, majority of statement in C++ are identical to statement in C. So here, if you look at the statements in C++, if you have a knowledge of a C, you can easily understand what is a purpose of this program. So that's an advantage. If you are a C programmer and you are going to change from imperative language to object-oriented language, the shift is easier for you. It's other way around also. If you are expert programmer in C++, it will become difficult to switch over to a C++. Now, next important point is a white space. We mentioned that the end of a line is not important to a C++ compiler. So, you know about the compiler? You must be aware of a compiler because you must have compiled your programs. So, purpose of a compiler is to convert C program into a machine language. Now, what is the purpose of a white space here? So, in case of a C program, white space are basically ignored by a compiler. So, if a compiler sees a white space, it won't do anything in general, but it's not true for all the cases. We mentioned that the end of line is not important to a C++ compiler. So if you write a statement that is partially written in a line 1 and partially written on a line 2, then it will be treated as a one statement from the two line, because end of line does not make any sense to a compiler here. So actually the compiler ignores white space almost completely. Now, question is that what is a white space? White space is defined as spaces, carriage written, line feet, tabs, vertical feet, and
Hello,
forward. So these are basically escape sequences that are treated as a white space. So these characters are invisible to compiler. You can put several statements on one line separated by any number of spaces or tabs, or you can run a statement over two or more lines. So your statement can be on a two line, or you can write two statements in a one line. Compiler will take care of it. So it's all the same to the compiler. White space are basically ignored by compiler at the time of compilation. Now, try to see the same program that we have discussed in the first slide. Look at this program. You have a hash include IOStream. It is the same program, but written in a different format using namespace std, integer main, cout. Then you have that's a insertion operator. Then you have a statement here. Then you have a return followed by 0, semicolon, and bracket. Now the question is that you have written this program in this particular format. Are you able to compile it? You will able to compile it and execute and it will work fine. But it is not in a readable form. It is very difficult to get the meaning of this program. So, but for compiler point of view, it's a valid program and there is no problem. So we don't recommend this syntax. It is non-standard and hard to read, but it does compile correctly. So in the first program and this one, you won't find any difference in terms of a compilation. Output will be exactly same. So there are few exceptions to the rule. Try to find it out. Exceptions to the rule means white space. White space are ignored by a compiler. But this is an exception. Here, if you include IO string, you have to write in one line. If you try to break in two lines, it won't work. In case of a string quotes, that's a string constant, you have every age has a language of its own. Here, white spaces are not ignored. Within a string constant, it will be presented to you as it is. Fine. And there are more cases that we are going to discuss. If you want to break this in a two line, then you have to use slash to continue on the next line, because string constant cannot be break in the same way as a normal C statement. Now, output using C out. So, in the first statement that we talked about, we have seen C out. If you try to compare with a C program, it can be seen as a printf, but printf is a function. Cout is a object. Now, what is an object? What is the purpose of object? We are going to discuss. It's not a function, it's an object. The statement Cout, every age has a language of its own, causes the phrase in quotation mark to be displayed on the screen. Now, the question is, how does this work? So a complete description of this statement requires an understanding of objects, operator overloading, and other topics we would discuss until later in this course. But right now we try to give you a brief preview how actually it is displayed. The identifier Cout is actually an object. So it's an object. And look at this one. Do you remember what is this operator? This operator in C program.
Left shift.
It's a left shift. Yes, very good. It's a left shift operator. So Cout, left shift operator, but here it's not a left shift. If you know the syntax of a left shift, it is basically it is displaying. It's not. So it's basically redirecting string to a Cout. So it's passing an argument to a Cout. So here this is basically an example of operator overloading. We have given a new functionality to this operator for a Cout. So hereby that's why I say we have this is an object, this is an operator overloading, and binding that we are going to discuss later. So it's an object and object overloading that is in this particular statement. Now, when we say operator Cout, it is predefined in C++ to corresponds to the standard output stream. So you have included a statement hash include stdio. Sorry, IO stream. Hash include IO stream. So this is basically defined in a IO stream there. So question is that what is a stream? You must be aware of a stream. Now we say online streaming of video. So streaming is basically a flow of data. So stream is any flow of data. So it's an abstraction that refers to flow of data. Now the question is from where to where. So flow of data from your program to an output stream. So it's a O stream. So flow of data from a keyboard to your program. So that is in stream. So you are defining different types of stream. So data from your program to an output stream or to a printer, data from a keyboard or mouse to your program, that is a input stream. So stream is basically abstraction. It can refer to any type of data flow. So it can be flow from computer to printer or keyboard to a computer. So we will call as, and all of them are defined in standard output stream. Here we have used Cout. It will move the data from computer to output data to a screen. So the operator, though initially it was a left shift, now we call it as an insertion because we have redefined it for a Cout. So it is now known as insertion or put to operator. So it's a left shift operator in C. It is also a left shift operator in C++, but it is also an insertion or a put to operator in C++. So now it has a dual functionality as a insertion operator and as a left shift operator. And how to define it, we will discuss when we discuss about the operator overloading in detail. Now, it directs the content of a variable to on its right to the object on its left. So what this operator is doing, it is directing the flow of every every age has a language of its own to a cout, and cout is displaying it on a screen. So it's basically moving the defining the flow of data. It directs the string constant. Every age has a language of its own to cout, which send it to the display. So it is shifting it to a display. So if you know, you will recognize this operator as a left shift bitwise operator and wonder how it can be used to direct output. So it's basically a use of a operator overloading in C++, and this is actually defined in iostream.h. So it is a standard input file, that's an include file that is defined in this case. That is why we are using before using cout. Now, next thing that we are going to discuss about the string constant. So the phrase written in quotation mark, every age has a language of its own /n is an example of string constant because it's not a variable. You have provided it and it will not be modified by your program. It will be presented as it. So within the course of execution of program, it will remain as it is. So you have a memory will pointing to the string constant, and it will remain same throughout the program execution. That is why we call as a constant. This constant is a something that is not going to be changed in a program execution. So as you probably know, a constant, unlike a variable, cannot be given a new value as the program runs. So variable, you have a space. Similarly, you require a space for a constant also, but in a variable, you can modify this value. X is equals to 1, then x is equals to x plus 1. So you are going to change it. But in a constant, you cannot change it. Its value is set when a program is written, and it retains this value throughout the program existence. Existence means start of the execution of program and up to the end of execution of a program. Now, few points. So we have discussed about the function main, two statements within the function main, and now we are going to discuss about the first two statements of a program. Now look at this one line. The first two lines that begin in the first program are directives. The first is preprocessor directive. The second is using directive. Now, you have already used preprocessor directive in C program. So what is the purpose of a preprocessor directive?
To include the library that we are using.
Very good. To include the library that we are using. So when we say a program statement, it's a command to a computer. When we say a preprocessor directive, it is a command to a compiler. What to do by compiler? So it is saying to a compiler, please include this library into my code. So it is a request or it is a command to a compiler before compiling the program. Please add this file to my program so that the use of cout does not make any problem in my program, because otherwise cout will be undefined identifier. Because the definition of cout is in iostream, so I have to include iostream. So I inform the compiler that please include this file to my source program. The second one is using directive. Here, in case of a using directive, I am using namespace std. So it is saying that all the lines that follow will be using standard namespace. What is the purpose of a namespace? How it is useful? We discuss later. Right now, it's saying all the names will be basically used. All the following line will be basically using names from a std space. So they occupy a sort of gray area. Why they are gray area? They are not part of basic C++ language. So they are extension, but they are necessary anyway. So means without preprocessor directive, you can write your program. But if you want to see out, then you have to use a library because you are using object created by somebody else. So that is basically a preprocessor directive that they are used. So they are not a C++ statement, but they are necessary because they are providing us something that is required by your program. So the first line of the first program hash include IO stream might look like a program statement, but it is not. It is not a program statement because it is not telling compiler to do something. It is telling, sorry, it is not telling computer to do something, but it is telling a compiler to do something, that is to include a IO stream file to my source code. So it is not part of a function body and does not end with a semicolon. It starts with a number sign hash. It is called a preprocessor directive. Now the difference here, program statements are instruction to the compiler, so come to the computer to do something such as adding two numbers or a printing a statement. Preprocessor directive on the other hand is an instruction to a compiler. So it's a two different concepts here. So we do not call as a program statement. We say it's a preprocessor directive. Now, the part of the compiler called the preprocessor deal with this directive before it begins a real compilation of process. So what it will do? It will try to insert another file into your source file. The preprocessor directive hash include tells the compiler to insert another file into your source file. The hash include directive is replaced by the content of file indicated. So if you see, you have your code, you can see the space of your code, and when you see object file of your code, when you compile it, is created an object file, and you will find the size of file may increase. This increase in file is because of inclusion of certain library files in your program. Hash include is the only one of many preprocessor directives. So all of which can be identified by initial hash sign. Can you name any other preprocessor directive? Anything starting with a hash other than hash include?
So define.
Hash define. What is the purpose? It is used for
Hash
defining,
include match.x.
it is used for defining macros and constants. So again, that
Yes,
is
sir.
a example of a preprocessor directive. Good.
Sir, hash include match.h for using the mathematical functions of the C++.
नहीं नहीं वो ठीक है hash define. When we say hash include is including a file. When we say hash define, it's basically using another preprocessor directive for defining a constant or even macros. So hash include, hash define.
Processor.
In a first example, preprocessor directive hash include tell the compiler to add a source file IO stream to the first CPP source file before compiling. So before compiling, file is added. Now the compilation process will start. Why to do this? IO stream is an example of a header file. It is concerned with basic input-output operations and contains declaration that are needed by the cout identifier and the which operator?
In.
Insertion operator or put to operator. So that is it's not a left shift, it's an insertion of put to operator. Without these declaration, the compiler would not recognize cout. So if you do not include hash include, compiler will see this is something undefined, and this will give you an error. So next is a using directive. A C program can be divided into different namespaces. So generally a namespace is important when we are using multiple files in my program. When I'm writing a large program, for small programs I can manage on its own, but better to use a namespaces. So a namespace is a part of program in which certain names are recognized. What are the names? Names are basically a name of a function, name of a variable, name of a object. So question is that where this name is defined. So I can need a full path of a name, like a if you want to say I have a file in my particular directory, so I say c colon slash user slash windows slash particular file, that's xyz.dll. So I need to give a full path, or I say use a current folder path and give me only the name of a file, not a canonical path. So here is something like this. I am trying to use only the name of object, not the name of file in which object is defined. So in this case, a directory using namespace std is used, which says that all program statements that follow are within standard namespace. So there is no need to prefix std to the name of object or function defined in this particular namespace. So various program components such as cout are declared within this namespace. So if we did not use the using directive, we would need to add std name to many programs element. For example, without using namespace ID, std, I may have to tell compiler that cout is defined in std class. So I have to take std cout. So I need a scope resolution operator to get the correct meaning of std out. But hash including stdio, this part, that is std, is included on its own. So there is no problem with the name collision. So to avoid adding std dozens of times in a program, we use the using directive instead. So this will be helpful, but I can use multiple namespace std in my program for different parts of program, and we are going to discuss it about detail when we will talking about the multiple files and header files.
But sir, the program also runs if we don't use that namespace or the std before cout.
Actually, it should not run. It may depend upon the type of compiler. It may include on its own. So if it is a preprocessor is doing on it, but in case it should not run because it's a requirement. If it is running, so means your compiler is taking an extra step to add this thing. So it can be done to make it for ease of a programmer, but this is something that it should not be. It should be avoided. You should always define it, because it may be able to compile or run on some compiler, may not be able to run on a compiler or other compilers, because one is sophisticated, another is a normal, that is defined in case of a C++ language. So if you write a compiler, you add something to a compiler and you say this my compiler is better, it's okay. But thing is that the program may not be portable from one compiler to the another compiler. So it may not be portable from one machine to another machine. So it may create problem for some in some cases. So that is why try to avoid, try to be something used that is standard. So what we are talking about, we are talking about standard C++, not a C11 or a C89, C99. I'm talking about a standard one. So in a standard, this is a standard. It is going to be compiled correctly on each and every compiler.
So what if we have two functions that have similar name? One is inherited from the standard library and another is mentioned in our program. Then we also use using namespace to differentiate between the two.
No, no, there is a program solutions. We will tell you how to solve it. So just wait, we will discuss how to solve all these problems. We will try to solve this problem. So still I'm in the beginning of the course, so we will tell you how we can avoid a name collisions. So we can use a different name, but I can use a directive to tell which name to follow. So that is a possibility. And here in case of a C++, we are going to have a multiple function with the same name. And still we are going to resolve it correctly. So just wait for a few lectures, we will be able to resolve this problem also.
So what if we are using a function named cout, which is also included in the library, and we are using it in our function by declaring it?
What we can do, we can, if we say cout is already there, you can override this function. You can override and you can use your customized function. That's a possibility. It's like an operator overloading. So you have a function overloading. You can do it. And how to do it, we are going to discuss when we are discussing about the operator overloading and function overloading. So that is the case of overloading. You have a same function name and it will be overloaded to make a different task or a more sophisticated task. Fine. So that is a possibility. You can always overload cout, but that will be your function. It now will not be a standard part, and you have to define what is the meaning of this function.
So can we overload functions on objects and other things?
No. We are always we can always suppose take a case. You want to add a 3 argument, you want to add a 4 argument, you want to add a 5 argument. So you can always define add AB, add ABC, add ABCD. So what you are having, you are having a three function with the same name but different argument list. So it can be resolved, and this is also known as a function overloading. So yeah, just wait. We are going to discuss this thing, and it's a overloading, and it's possible. We are going to use a same function name for, and we are having a multiple function body, and we are having a possible ways how to resolve at a time of compilation and how to resolve at the time of execution. So we will be managing both of them. It's known as a static binding and it's a dynamic binding, and we are going to cover both of these topics in this course. So just wait for you, because we have to move to that point to understand that concept. So we are just, before this, we have to understand about the objects and member functions, and then only we will be able to give you the correct picture of a operator and function overloading. So right now, if you say cout can be overloaded, and in this course, you will be overloading cout also. So next part is basically about comments. So you know what is a comment?
So something that is not a part of a program, but we write them so that anyone can understand them, or a different programmer who is using our program.
Okay. The purpose of a comment is basically to inform even others about what is in a program. What is the purpose of a program? What is the purpose of particular statement? We generally do not give the meaning of a statement. So if you say add A is equals to A plus 1. In this case, we do not say, we say we are updating a temperature, so that everybody can understand the meaning of A is a temperature here. So it gives a meaningful information for someone who wants to update or read your program. So he should be able to understand what is a purpose of a construct. So that is the purpose of a comments. So the comments are an important part of any program. Today I have written a program. I have something in a mind. I can code it. But after 1 month or a 2 month or 3 months, if we go back to the same program, I may not be able to understand why I have written this thing. What is the purpose of writing these statements? If I have commented at that time, it will become easier for me to understand what is the purpose of this program. So what you try to do, try to go back to your first year programs and try to see what you have done it. Can you able to understand each one of them? If you are having comment with written in them, or comments are not written in them, can you find out the difference between, because you have written it, you know what you have done at that time, can you recall it right now? So try to do it as an exercise. Try to open your previous year programs and check it out. Can you interpret what is the meaning of those programs right now? Don't execute, just see the code and try to check it out. So what is the purpose? They help the person writing a program and anyone else who must read the source file understand what is going on. So the compiler ignores comment. They do not add the file size or execution time of an executable program. So when you say file size, if you say abc.cpp, its file size will be larger because you have added more data. But object file will be smaller because compiler will remove those things. So the means object file will be of same size and execution time will not change because nothing more has been compiled. Rest of thing has been removed. So comment syntax. So let's rewrite our first program incorporating comment into our source file. Here the comments are written just for the sake of writing comments. It's not for the purpose of a meaning. So I'm just saying double bar. Have you used double bar? So double bar is a one way of writing comment. So bar, you have a comment.cpp. So I'm saying this program name is comment.cpp. The purpose of this program is to demonstrate comments. The first statement is basically a preprocessor directive. Second space is basically line is the using directive. Third line is the basically a main function. It is start of a function body. This is the basically program statement. This is basically a program statement, and this is the end of function body. So this may be a good for a beginner who can understand what is the meaning of this program. So what is a function, what is a function body, statement, and directives, preprocessor, and the use it. So that can be helpful for someone who is reading it for the first time. So this is the one style of writing comment. What you are using? Double bar. If you anything following this will be ignored by compiler. So this means a line is removed from a compilation process. A line is removed from a compilation process. Look at here, second case, hash include iostream followed by double bar. Here again, anything following this will be ignored by compiler to the end of a line. Similarly, anything following this is ignored by compiler till end of the line. So here, first part of a is read by a compiler and remaining is ignored. First part is read, remaining is ignored, and two. So here what we are doing, commenting the entire line or commenting the remaining part of line. So this, if you say double bar, is a style of C++ programming. Actually, it is not part of a C. So it's a difference here. You can use in C when you are using C++ compiler for compiling a C program. But actually, it's not a C style of comment. It's not a C style of comment. It's basically C++ style of comment. So comment is start with double slash symbols and terminates at the end of a line. So as soon as you find a double slash, it's a start of comment and terminate with the end of line. This is one of the execution on this is one of the exceptions to the rule that compiler ignore white space. So here all the things after this are the white space, but compilers go for a end of a line. So it eliminates all things up to the end of a line here. So it's an exception of a rule. Exception iostream we talked about, that should be written in one line, or string constant should be written in a one line, and in a comment there are the three exceptions to a white space that we talked about in the beginning. A comment can start at the beginning of a line or on the same line following a program statement. Look at this one. You have from the beginning of the line, you have a program statement and following a program statement. So again, it can be written in both the way. So we have so both possibilities are shown in the comment example. Now, when to use comment? The comment are almost always a good thing. Most programmers don't use enough of them. If you tempted to leave out comment, remember that not everyone is as smart as you. They may need more explanation than you about your program is doing. So take a program from your friend and try to understand what it is doing. You will come to know the importance of comment. Also, you may not be as smart next month when you have forgotten key details about your program's operation as you are today. So that in that case also it will be helpful for you to quickly revise what you have done at that particular time. Use comment to explain the use comment to explain to a person looking at the listing what you are trying to do. The details are in the program statement themselves, so comment should concentrate on big picture, clarifying your reason for using certain statement or group of statements. So that is the purpose of a comment here. Now alternate comment syntax. This is a syntax of a C programming, and it's also used in C++. So this is an old style of comment. That is why a C style. So this type of comments begin with a slash and a asterisk pair, and ends with a asterisk and a slash pair. So not with the end of a line. So it means it start it compiler check if it is a start of a comment. So it try to find what is a delimiter. So it find the end of a comment by a asterisk and a slash. So as soon as it find asterisk and a slash, and in between anything is treated as a comment. So these symbols are harder to type. Why are harder to type? Because the slash is basically using a lowercase. Asterisk is using an uppercase. So you need a lots of keystroke to writing this comment. So and had it's a difficult because two different symbols at two different location. One is underscore, and that is when is a lowercase, another is an uppercase. So that's the problem of typing. But that is a it's disadvantage, but we have also an advantage here. Look at this comment here. So starting of comment, end of comment. So it's a multiple line comment. I do not have to type slash slash for each and every line. All these lines are now basically commented here. So however, it has an advantage in special situation. One example is a multiple line commenting. Another example is a part. So I need in a function body. So it's starting of a function body and in a function body, and anything between this. If we want to write a comment, I can write it. It will start here, it will end here, and after this, the compiler will treat this as a normal C code. So it does not leave out up to the end of a line. So if this type of commenting is required, then you cannot use slash slash. Instead, better to use slash asterisk and asterisk slash to start and end comment. So that is can be a advantage of a alternate comment, that is a C style comment. So if you attempt to use slash style comment in this case, choosing brace won't be visible to the compiler since our style is comment runs to the end of the line and the code won't compile correctly. So that's a difference here. If you write slash slash, so this braces will be eliminated and the function will become syntactically incorrect because no closing of a function body. So in this case, I can use
So
old
actually,
style.
we have to connect to maths class now.
Fine, you can do it.
So the link is just right,
No
and we have
problem. Okay, you can tell at 10:35. You can always remind me. Sorry, at 10:30 or 10:25. Try to remind me the end of a class because I do not have a watch in front of me. So in every class, please give me a comment around 10:25 to stop the class. Okay, fine. I will tell you about the details of the next class through a classroom. So next class will be your like a implementation in this particular presentation slide. You have to compile and execute and give me the result in form of a that is a screen capture. So I will inform you about that. Okay, fine.
Okay,
You
sir.
continue
Thank
with your class, next class.
you. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.